Anita Moorjani. And we are very, very happy today to have Anita with us to talk about the most amazing near-death experience that she experienced in, was it 2006, right?
That's right, 2006.
So, Anita.
In 2006, I had end-stage cancer because I had cancer for about 4 years. And by that time, I had cancer of the lymph glands, lymphoma. By that time, my organs had started to shut down. My cancer had spread throughout my body. It was stage 4B, which is the highest stage. And I had open skin lesions. I had fluid in the lungs. I was breathing with the aid of oxygen. And my muscles were completely wasted. I couldn't walk. I was lying down or sleeping most of the time. I had fever all the time. And I fell into a coma. I was in the hospital, and the doctors said that now my organs were shutting down, and these were my final hours. So they told my family to be prepared, and that I was dying. But what they didn't realize, and what nobody realized at the time, was that even though my physical body was dying, I was actually aware of everything that was happening around me. I was aware of everything the doctors were doing, saying. I was aware of my family. And I was also aware of things that were happening beyond that. I was aware of the other, what I call the other realm. Sometimes I'm at a loss for words because it's very hard to describe. But my father had passed away 10 years before, and I became aware of him, of his presence. And my best friend had died of cancer 2 years before that, and I became aware of her presence. So it was like I had crossed a veil and become aware of another realm. And a lot of things happened, but it's interesting because time is very different in that realm. So it didn't feel like a lot of time had passed, but a lot happened in a very short time. And it was as though everything was happening all at once. I was aware of everything at once, but whatever I focused on, that's what would happen before me.
It's already a very, very dramatic beginning because Shirley and I have actually met Anita before. And even though this is the second time I'm facing you, hearing your story, I have goosebumps all over me because I know the whole story and I know how astounding it is on many, many different levels, whether it's on an emotional level and on a spiritual level. So, yeah, let's continue with the journey.
Well, then what happened is that, first of all, I felt as though I understood everything. I understood my life, why I was there at that point, how I had come to have cancer. I understood, in fact, that everything that had happened was a culmination of all my choices, my thoughts, my beliefs, my actions, everything, all my life had led me to be where I was at this point in time. And I also felt as though I was surrounded, but what I can only describe as like an energy of just love, like unconditional love. It was very different from the kind of love that we feel here in the physical life. It was not like a human love. It was more like no matter what I had done or who I was or what I didn't do, I was still accepted regardless. It's like a feeling of finally just coming home and being accepted after having a really, really hard day or hard life.
Actually, this is the part that amazes me the most because let me to be very frank and honest, because the words, Anita, you have just said are actually the words that we hear all the time about unconditional love, about what unconditional love is really is. But as I said last time when I met you, and I'm sure Shirley would agree, even though the words sound so familiar, when they come from your mouth, it just bring me to the the brink of having tears.
Yeah.
Because I can really feel your direct experience of what unconditional love is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they think that unconditional love and what Anita mentioned about unconditional love is different.
Yeah, so at the brink of my tears, so please continue.
This kind of love, it's very, very different from what we feel in the physical life, because the other thing that I felt was it was as though we are all connected. Our physical body keeps us separate from each other, makes us feel as though we are separate. But when we're not with our bodies, when we are without our bodies, we are actually connected. It's as though we are all part of the same consciousness, expressing from the same consciousness. So the kind of unconditional love that I felt in the other realm was just, it's like as though I felt it for everyone, and I felt it coming back to myself, because nobody is separate from me. So if I understood at that point that even if I'm to say that I hate another person, I'm actually hating an extension of myself, because beyond our physical bodies, we are all connected. We are all one. We're all the same. And I completely understood that even, for example, my father, who I didn't have a very good relationship with him when he was alive, in that realm, all I felt for him and from him coming to me was just pure, unconditional love. And there was this feeling of compassion and understanding that he, even during this physical life, he loved me in the best way he knew how. When we are in this physical world, we have all our beliefs, our culture, our religion, and we are influenced by the people around us. And so these create filters, and we react and act towards people according to these filters. We develop judgments and things like that. But in the other realm, there is none of these things, because we don't have any culture or religion or nationality or anything. So there's no judgment as well. And we understand each other in an instant. I understood my father. I understood my best friend without having to speak to each other. It's like their essence and my essence just merged, and you just understand immediately. So I know that even if people do things which here in this physical world we judge it as being negative or wrong or bad, in that realm you completely understand why they did what they did. And people who are happy inside will never hurt other people. So when people actually do things that we consider bad or wrong or hurtful, they're always doing it from their own pain.
So can I say that actually transcends about, telecommunication? It's much more than that.
Yes, it's much more than that, because everything, first of all, the slowest is actually speech, is the slowest, speaking to each other, listening, because you have to wait for the person to finish speaking before you can understand what they're going to say. With telecommunication, that's probably the next level. That is what I would say, is that you kind of know what the other person is going to say, or how they're going to react, or what they're thinking. This is so different. It's like your consciousness and my consciousness are merged. So I know everything. I know why you did everything. It's almost like even if you encountered the spirit of Hitler, you would have absolute compassion for what he did.
So can we say it's kind of like holographic?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the closest word that we human beings have.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's probably even more than that.
Yeah, you could say it's holographic. It's literally, there's no physicalness, and it's like your essence, your bare consciousness, your bare essence, merging with the essence of another. and just knowing why they followed the path that they did.
So what's next?
So then what happened is, now even though I'm speaking it in sequential time, like this happened and then this happened, but in actuality, there was no sequence, because in that realm, time is very, very different than it is here. In physical, we perceive time as being linear, as one event happens after the other. In that realm, it feels as though everything is happening at the same time, and it just depends what I am focusing my awareness on at that moment.
So that is, I think, the most mind-blowing thing for us human beings, because we always hear the expression of time is not linear.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just know it as a concept. And I think this is one of those things that if we don't have the direct experience, we can never ever really understand it.
I think that if we start to realize and to believe that time is not linear, we will see more evidence of it. But I think we have been, our minds have been trained from a very young age. We teach children from as young as they are able to understand. We teach them how to tell time in a linear form. We teach them how to read the clock, the watch. And so we've been brainwashed to believe that time is linear. But I think that if we were not so fixed in this concept, we would actually experience more and more time slips during our physical life.
What do you mean by time slips?
I mean things like where we can suddenly find ourselves maybe backward in time by 1 hour or 2 hours or half a day, and we'll kind of go, oh, wow, I'm getting another opportunity to do this. It's like getting a time slip. I mean, almost it's what it felt to me, that I was getting another opportunity, another crack at living my life without the cancer, without the way it disappeared so rapidly. It defied time. But on another level, when I say time slips, I think that if it didn't shock us so much, and if it was something we started to accept that can happen, I think that it's highly possible that we can occasionally find ourselves maybe like you check your watch and it's 7:30, and an hour later you check your watch and it's 6:30, and you go, hey, I've just got an extra hour.
Now, excuse me, because Anita, you sound so as a matter of factly that if I'm not paying enough attention, I would think you're talking about like shopping in the mall, because it sounds so as a matter of fact to you. But what you just talked about is, in fact, extremely mind-blowing. And I'm sure that is very shocking to lots of people, including myself. So do you really mean it that if we... So, okay, recapping what you've just said, is like, if we consciously know that there's no linear time, we can actually be offered experiences of, time travel backwards?
I think so. Maybe initially... we might not be talking about time travel of, 5 years, 10 years or something like that. It could be time. That's why I said time slips. Yes.
To make it small.
Yeah, like 15, 20 minutes, half an hour here.
Even 15 seconds is a lot, oh dear.
Yeah. I'll tell you why I say this, because when I was in that state, in the other realm, I was able to see different possibilities of how my life would pan out for me. And I saw the possibility of dying, and the doctors coming and saying to my family that, that basically I had died. And then the cause of death was organ failure due to end-stage cancer. But interestingly, I also saw the possibility of my living, because I had a choice of whether to live or die. But I saw both of these pan out, where the doctors actually came to my family and said, we have good news, her organs are functioning again. Now, while I was in the coma, the doctors took the blood tests for my organs to see how bad it was, to see whether it was a complete failure or whether there was a possibility.
When was that after the coma? When was that after you've been you were sent to the hospital?
It was about a day after. So I was in the coma for a day and a half, about 30 hours. So I was. So when they took the blood test already, and this is after they said the organs have shut down, but still several hours after saying that, they take the blood test. In the coma, I was able to see that if I chose to come back to life, the blood test results would show that my organs are starting to function again. If I chose death, the blood test results would show that my organs have failed.
So you mean when you were in the other realm, you can see these two different
things, two different paths, two different outcomes for the blood test, depending on my choice of whether to come or not. But the blood test had already taken.
So this is very astounding to me, because I would say this is the real manifestation or real experience of what parallel universes.
Yep.
Because we talk about parallel universe, and it's all because of choices, different choices we make, and then we will live separate realities in different parallel universes. So that is exact experience that you had.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like, that I had the choice of these two outcomes, and everything right down to the test results of the test. So the test is already taken, but the result is totally dependent on my choice.
And the two different potentialities already exist.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of choice, which potentiality you step into.
Yes.
Excellent. So the question to Anita is, given that your body is already failing so miserably, that is actually totally not repairable, we could say, so why did you choose to come back at all?
That's a really good question, because when I was in that realm, the feeling was so amazing. Actually, I didn't want to come back. My first choice was not to come back. I wanted to stay there for forever, for eternity.
To enjoy it.
To enjoy it, because it was really, really blissful. For the first time, I was like, there was no more fear, and there was no more pain from the cancer. And I felt so free and so light and really, really amazing. I didn't want to come back.
Oh, gee, I want to go there now that I've heard you.
Yeah, exactly. But then I started to understand even why I had the cancer. I completely understood why I got the cancer in the first place. And then I understood that actually it wasn't my time to go. And I understood that I still had some gifts waiting for me on this side, and I completely understood that now that I knew what I knew and understood why I had the cancer, that if I chose to come back, my body would heal very quickly. And I understood that we are really amazing, magnificent beings, and I never knew that before. And my father then said to me, when I had this realization, my father said to me, now that you know the truth of who you really are, go back and live your life fearlessly.
So this very last part was you felt that from your father directly, right?
Yeah, the very last part was my father encouraging me. But it came just at the point where I started to really understand that I had never known my whole life that we as human beings are really, really special and amazing and magnificent. And I just completely understood that. And I completely understood that because I had never known this and I had led a life that was very fearful, and I had always been fearful, and I'd always been a people pleaser, and I had never really taken care of myself. These are among the many reasons why I got cancer. And the clarity in that realm was so clear. It's like in an instant. Now over here, it took me writing a whole 200-page book to explain why I had the cancer. But in that state, it's like in an instant, I knew exactly why I had it.
You got it.
Just got it.
You got
It's
it.
like an awakening. I got it. I understood why I had the cancer. And now I know if I go back, I won't have the cancer anymore.
So can we say your father played an important role in encouraging you to come back?
Yes.
This was quite a determining factor.
Yes, he did play an important role.
Okay. So perhaps we take a short break and then
Okay.
we continue with our journey.
Okay.
Okay. So we're talking about how your father encouraged you to come back to this life.
Yes, which he did. He felt I still had a lot of gifts here to receive.
And what are the gifts that turn out to be?
Well, the interesting thing is that when I was in the other realm, I was actually able to see that if I chose to go back, that I had some kind of an important mission. And I didn't understand what it was, but I knew that it was going to affect a lot of people. Like I saw that I was going to affect thousands, maybe tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. But I absolutely could not understand what it was I had to do to do that or to accomplish that. But I also understood that I won't need to figure it out or chase it or pursue it. I knew that my only purpose was to come back and be myself. I learned that the most important thing that we can do is to love ourselves, because when we love ourselves, we allow ourselves to be who we are. When we don't love ourselves, we are constantly trying to be what other people want us to be, and that's how we get lost.
I think probably we should go into this more in depth, because this statement of loving ourselves, we
Yes.
hear this all the time. But what is this really all about? I think we can hear more from you.
To me, what loving self means, first of all, at least loving and respecting yourself as much as you would anybody else. When we are kids, when we're young, our schools, our religion, and so on teaches us you have to love your neighbor as much as yourself. What's interesting is, as children, we never learn to love ourselves. So imagine you don't love yourself, but you're learning, love my neighbor as much as myself. If you don't love yourself, that means I don't love my neighbor either. So it's interesting that we never, ever learn the importance of loving ourselves. What I say is that watch your language in your mind, your dialogue in your mind of what you are talking to yourself. What are you saying to yourself? Very typically, all the time in our mind, we are constantly saying that, gosh, I'm so dumb. Oh man, I'll never make it. I'll never be able to do this. I'll never reach this goal. Oh, I shouldn't even bother to try this. This is constantly going on in our mind. That is the first place to start. I tell people to watch that and stop that.
What about if we can't stop it?
Then I ask you to replace it with something else, to replace it. So one exercise that I ask people to do is, well, first of all, if I said to you, take a sheet of paper and write down all the negative things about yourself and all the things you wish you could improve and what you want to change, you will have a list as long as your arm, or maybe 10 times longer. If I now ask you to think of all the things that you love about yourself, all your positive qualities, you will be hard-pressed to even think of 3 or 4 or 5.
If at all.
If at all. People struggle with that. Why is that? It cannot be that we are all made in such error with so many flaws. It is absolutely not possible, and it's not even logical. It just means that our minds have been trained to find what is wrong with us. So now we have to start doing the opposite. So what I ask people to do is every single day, every morning when they wake up, is to force themselves to find 5 things that are positive about themselves. And it could be anything. It could be about their appearance, about their intellect, about how good they are at making friends or anything, or about the way they handle a situation. And in fact, if it's possible, I would ask them to find 5 things in the morning and again 5 things in the evening and write it down in a journal. And do this every single day so that it sets the tone for your day in the morning and it sets the tone for your sleep at night. And then the next day, don't repeat what was written, what you wrote the previous day. And really what it is like training a muscle. It's like when you go to the gym and you train and you lift, you keep exercising and you can lift heavier and heavier weights. It's because you're working the muscles. So what you're now doing is you're working the muscles of your brain in the opposite way of the way they have been conditioned to work your whole life.
So that's very, very practical advice.
Yes, that's my aim, is to make it easy for you. And what I want to add is that many, many people are afraid to teach people how to love yourself, because one of the things, and this is particularly in Asian culture, definitely in Indian culture, Chinese culture, parents and teachers and so on believe that if you teach the kids how to love themselves and praise themselves and appreciate themselves, they will become selfish and show-offs and conceited and big-headed. This is what people believe in our cultures. I want to say that this is absolutely not true. It's absolutely opposite. People who are selfish and conceited and show-offs are the ones who do not love themselves, and they are overcompensating. People who are truly, internally very confident and secure, they are actually much happier, and they are more likely to reach out and help others because they have more to give. And if you tell them love others as you love yourself, they will know exactly how to love others.
So can you talk a little bit more about how you decided to come back and what happened after you decided to come back to your life?
So as I mentioned earlier, I was given the choice of whether I wanted to come back. But when my father said that now that you know the truth of who you really are, go back and live your life fearlessly, I then made the decision that I would come back. And that was when I started to open my eyes in my physical body. And even though my physical body was still very, very weak and completely, it had no nourishment and open skin lesions and everything and connected to tubes, I knew that I was going to be fine.
So it was like the exact moment. Once you decided to come back, you opened your eyes.
I started to open my eyes.
Can I ask questions? I want to know how long from you decide come back until you open your eyes.
It could have been instant because time is so hard to detect on that side. But I think it was almost instantaneously. But even then, even though I opened my eyes, I wasn't wide awake. I was still very, very drowsy, like just going in and out, very drowsy. And I was very confused, because as I opened my eyes and start focusing on the people around me, I was very, very confused, and it was like I still had one foot on that side and one foot on this side. I couldn't understand what had happened, and I couldn't explain it properly or anything. And but within a few days, I started to remember everything, and things started to become clear. And I absolutely knew 100% that my body was going to be fine. And within 4 days, they were able to take out all the tubes, and my tumors had shrunk by 70%.
That's, oh Lord, that is the thing. That is the thing that astounds every single person. And my jaw literally dropped the first time when I knew about it, because 4 days is nothing, right?
Yeah.
4 days for 70%. So you did checks. You did tests afterwards, 4 days afterwards, right?
Yeah, they took like a scan 4 days. The doctors were astounded because it was visible, because the tumors on my neck and under my arm and all were visible. And so they were just seeing it just disintegrating. And the doctor actually said he doesn't even know what to write in my medical records.
Exactly. More or less like instantaneous healing.
Yes, it was. Actually, I knew I was completely healed. It's like in my, I say in my mind, but it's beyond the mind. It's like I knew it with every cell of my being. I knew it in my soul that I was totally healed, but I was just waiting for my body to catch up.
Exactly. I think the healing was definitely instantaneous.
Yes.
Those couple of days, it was just like in this physical dimension, it takes a bit more time for things to follow.
Exactly.
But the healing just happened already.
Yeah, the healing had happened while I was in the other realm.
Yeah.
And the body just had to catch up.
Yeah. And it was busy catching up.
Yes.
And the people around you had an even busier time catching up. How long did it take for total recovery? Because we knew that 70% of the cancer cells were gone after 4 days.
Yeah. Well, I was released from the hospital to go home in 5 weeks. Now, bear in mind that the cancer cells receded very quickly. But other things like I had open skin lesions, which actually at first my oncologist said they would need to get a surgeon to come and do reconstructive surgery, because my oncologist said your body does not have enough nutrition to heal. But the skin lesions healed by themselves. And then my muscles had wasted because I had no nutrition. So I had to build up. I had physiotherapy while I was in the hospital to build up my muscles. I had to start eating. And the other interesting thing was that up until the time I had the near-death experience, my body was not absorbing any food. But as soon as I made the decision to live, from then on, my body started absorbing food again. And so physically, it took 5 weeks to be completely well enough to be walking around and going out and doing things. But basically, the reversal started from the point that I made the decision to come back.
We talked a little bit about fear before, and Shirley was asking, do you see it like this? It's like you faced your fears and then you sort of conquered them, and then that's what led to your healing. Is it how it went?
That is, yes, you could say that. Let me explain it in the way that it felt, how it happened exactly. Before my cancer, I used to live a very, very fearful life. And I was afraid of many things. I was afraid of displeasing people. I was afraid of not being spiritual enough, not being good enough. I always felt that I had to work hard at getting people to like me, or I always had to improve myself all the time. I had to work on myself and improve myself to be better. And also, I used to be afraid of a lot of the different foods. You know, I felt that microwaves cause cancer, mobile phones cause cancer, using plastic containers cause cancer. And so I used to be really afraid of all these things. And then when I got cancer, I became even more afraid of everything, because people would email me, and especially when you have cancer, everybody thinks they're helping you. And so they email me all these kinds of things like, don't eat chicken, it's got hormones that cause cancer. Don't take dairy products because it causes cancer. And all these things were coming in my email box that was making me even more fearful about cancer. And people are well-meaning, and they tell you, oh, you've got to do research and all this. So I was living a very, very fearful life, and I became completely vegan. And again, if I followed like a Chinese TCM doctor, the Chinese doctor would say you have to eat pork because it's cooling, it's leung. And so the soup would always have pork. But if I followed an Indian Ayurvedic doctor, the Indian Ayurvedic doctor would say, you have to have vegetarian, but you must have a lot of dairy products. And if I followed a Western naturopathic doctor, the Western naturopathic doctor would say, oh, you've got to have raw vegan, completely raw vegan. Everything else feeds cancer. Sugar feeds cancer. Everything feeds cancer. But the Indian doctor would say, oh, you have to have sugar and you can't go vegan and you can't go raw. You have to have hot food, but vegetarian. So it all contradicts each other. The more research you do, the more you will find the information contradicts each other. And that is what made me even more fearful. I feared everything. I feared cancer. I feared chemotherapy. I feared 21st century life, everything, radiation, everything. And so when I went into the other realm, that was when I realized that actually we have nothing to fear, because when it's not our time, these things cannot kill us.
I think this is a very, very classic and vivid description of what quite a lot of people who have health challenges go through when we are exposed to this vast array of information that overflows into internet, in the market, in our friends. It's like spilling out from every single word, every single place, every single spot we look into. It oozes out this sort of overflow of information, but they're always contradictory.
Yes, and it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's like the more diligent you are, the more constraints you have.
Yes.
The more you know, the less you can do.
Yes.
And it's like, because I experienced that myself too.
Really?
Because I used to have one of the naturopathic practitioners told me I've candida infection in my digestive tract. And that's what I was told. And then I went into very strict restrictive diet. And then later on, I also went to an Ayurvedic practitioner. And then I also tried what they call macrobiotics.
Yes.
Which is they divide things into yin and yang. And you name it, I tried it. So that's exactly the thing that I went through. And I felt so restrictive that at the end of the day, I felt as if there's nothing I can eat.
Yes, and you feel miserable.
Extremely miserable.
Yes.
And I feel my life was cursed.
Yes.
Because that was hell. If there's one thing as hell, that was hell.
Yes, that's what I felt.
Even when I look at a single nut, I would think, okay, is it roasted?
Yeah.
Is there honey on it?
Yeah.
Because I can't take sugar. But as you said, Ayurvedic practitioner said you should eat sugar.
Yes, but the Western naturopath said, no, sugar feeds the cancer.
Yeah. So
always contradictions.
Always.
Yeah, and in fact, living that way is what really makes you crazy, and it makes you stressed. And what I tell people is that is what causes cancer, not those things, not the microwaves and not the peanuts or the sugar. It's that fear of living, that fear of eating everything. So again, I tell people just stop doing it. Whether you have cancer, whether you've had cancer before, whether you're afraid of getting cancer, the most important thing is to do what brings you joy in life. And everything that you choose to do, everything you choose to eat, do it from a place of loving life or wanting to prolong your life or appreciating your life and your body, not from a place of fear. So even if you want to, drink healthy juices and do a detox, it's fine, but do it because you love your body and you love your life and you want to live long, not because you are scared and you're drinking it for that reason. If you want to drink a glass of champagne and eat a piece of chocolate because it makes you happy, do it. And then don't feel guilty afterwards. Just enjoy it.
Either you don't do it.
Exactly. Either don't do it if you're going to feel guilty, or do it and don't feel guilty.
That's excellent discussion, because I think the dividing line is so flimsy.
Yeah.
And it's so delicate that we can most of the time we can hardly tell from what mindset we are doing things, because we can be doing exactly the same regime.
Yes.
But with a completely different mindset, and the result will be completely different. That's what you said, right?
Yes, it will be. And, somebody once said to me, asked me the question. He said, "You're saying that it's okay to drink champagne or wine if we enjoy it, but what if we become addicted to it?" And then I said, as soon as you become addicted to it, then you're not doing it from enjoyment anymore. You will only have addictions if you don't love and respect yourself and your body enough. This is why I always say the number one most important thing is to love yourself. Only when you love yourself are you able to let go of your fears and make all your choices from the place of love. That means you won't fall into addictions and you won't allow yourself to do things that harm you.
Excellent. So Shirley's question is, Hong Kong is infamous for its hectic, crazy, busy life. It's very stressful life. So, Anita, do you have any suggestions or recommendations for we crazy, stressful Hong Kong people so that we can live a healthier, happier life?
I think Hong Kong people need to learn to enjoy themselves a little bit more. They need to lighten up. One thing about Hong Kong people is that I find that we don't have a sense of humor. Hong Kong people are very generous, very big-hearted. I love Hong Kong and I love Hong Kong people, but we are really too serious, way too serious. And I only notice it more now as I travel. I compare it to people in big cities like London, which is a thriving big city, or you go to New York or LA. The people in all these countries, and Sydney, in fact, especially places like Sydney, the people in these thriving big cities, even though they have a hectic, stressful life, they work hard, but they all have a sense of humor. They laugh easily. They don't take life as seriously as Hong Kong people do.
That's quite a shame, isn't it? That's a lack of sense of humor. It's not something that we should be proud of. Oh, dear. So you grew up in Hong Kong. So you have every single right to say it.
And notice I say we, not they. I'm talking about us. I'm a Hong Kongian. And if I can give some examples, for example, it's not that their lives are better or anything, but simple example, even sitting in a taxi, talking to a taxi driver, I find that in Hong Kong, for example, the taxi drivers might be more irritable. But in a country like whether you're in New York or London, the traffic condition is just as bad. They are just as unhappy with the government as our Hong Kong people are. They have the same problems, but instead of taking it out on the customer, they chat and they laugh about it. We laugh about their government and their people and whoever is there, whether it's the president or the prime minister, and they joke about it and they make fun of it. And that's very, very different. And I feel that relieves stress. And I'm finding that having a good sense of humor is very, very important for relieving stress.
I can't agree more. I'm sure people who listen to this program can remember in the Olympic Games held in London, the opening ceremony.
Yes.
Where the Queen of England, there's this appearance of her in a very, very extremely humorous, witty section of the whole opening ceremony. If a country and if the people of the country and even the monarch of the country can allow her to be made fun of, in a very light-hearted way, then it tells a lot, doesn't it?
It really tells a lot. And if you can see the way even the whole opening ceremony with Mr. Bean,
Rowan Atkinson,
it tells you the whole character of that country. They make fun of their leaders and and they're okay with it because they're having fun.
Exactly. And it was because I'm a musician myself, and I paid very close attention to Mr. Bean's section where he played with the London Symphony Orchestra, with Sir Simon Rattle conducting. And Sir Simon Rattle, he's the number one maestro in the whole world. But nevertheless, he allowed himself to do the whole thing in such a light-hearted and witty way.
Yeah, I love the humor, when I go outside of Hong Kong. And I have to say, Hong Kong is my favorite place in the world to live. I would never live anywhere else. And I'm saying this for the benefit of the people. It's not a criticism. If I could help Hong Kong people in any way, it would be to remind them that don't take life so seriously.
Good, excellent.
And also I want to make sure that the taxi drivers don't feel I'm picking on them. It's just an example. It's all Hong Kong people are like that.
So maybe we take a short break?
Yep.
Okay. So can you talk a little bit more about the three men in your life, your father, your husband, and also your brother? What are the roles in this whole experience?
They've been really important to me. And my father, when I was growing up, my father was very strict, and I didn't have a very good relationship with him at that time. I always felt that I didn't meet his expectations because he wanted me to have an arranged marriage, and my parents did arrange a marriage for me, but I ran away.
You're runaway bride.
Yes, exactly.
Oh dear.
And for those who don't know, my parents are Hindu, I'm Indian, and so it is part of our culture. But I grew up going to a British school, and so my values had changed, and I didn't want to conform to my Hindu culture. So I always felt that my father never approved of me, and he always made me feel like I was different, a misfit, a rebel, all kinds of things. But in my heart, I only felt I just wanted to be who I am, and I was never able to. But when my father passed away, so when I was in this near-death realm, all I felt from my father was just pure, unconditional love. Like he was very, very proud of me and proud of who I am. It was all the things that I wanted to feel while he was alive. But I felt them only after, when we were both in that death stage. And it's as if when we are without our bodies, then our culture, our religion, our beliefs, our values, everything gets left behind with our bodies. And so all we are underneath is just love. And I completely understood that everything he did while I was growing up, he never meant to make me feel that way. He's always loved me unconditionally. But what happens is that in this life, with our culture and everything, these are like filters, and they make us react differently. And he was loving me in the best way he knew how, through the filters of his culture and his values and his upbringing.
So I was curious because you belong to an Indian family, and
Yes.
there's this Indian social circle in Hong Kong. So I'm sure your running away from your arranged marriage is quite a scandal, right?
Yes, it was a huge scandal.
So what was the impact on you?
It made me feel even more like a misfit, much more, because then all the Indian people said that I would never get married because no parents would let their son marry me because I had a bad reputation.
You're stigmatized.
I was stigmatized, exactly.
So it was like even more self-fulfilling prophecy for you because you already labeled yourself as quite a misfit.
Yes.
And then you did something that you even plummeted yourself into even worse reputation.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you're creating your own hell in one way or another.
Yeah, and also the part that my husband played in my life. So after the runaway bride episode,
The scandal.
the scandal, so I refused to be part of the Indian community. So I started to go out to work and mix with all kinds of different people. But it's interesting that my husband is also Indian because I met him one night and we both discovered we share very, very similar background. He also grew up in a British school in Hong Kong, and his parents also wanted him to have an arranged marriage, and he was refusing. And so they would. So he was also now moving around in Western circles of Western people and foreigners and non-Indian people. But because he and I shared so many similarities, we just clicked. We just clicked right away.
Oh, so that's how the romance started.
Yes.
You find your soulmate, can we say that?
Yes. It felt like I had found my soulmate. We would be able to talk, like we would be on the phone, just talking until 2 a.m. And then I would have to get up at 7:30 to go to work. But yeah, we would just, we never stopped having anything to say. We were so close. We would talk about everything from our childhood. And he was one of the only Indian guys I met that was, not only was he accepting about the fact that I had run away from an arranged marriage, he found it funny. He said, "That's what I love about you."
Oh, that's good. That's exactly the thing that we talked about just now, not to take things seriously.
Yeah.
To take a scandalous experience and see it in a funny way.
Yeah. Because, other guys I was meeting, if they were Indian and they would hear about it, it would be almost like, even if they accepted it, it's like they're doing me a favor. It's like, okay, I can accept it about you.
It's like a mercy thing.
It's like a mercy. And then again, I'm supposed to feel like that there's something wrong with me, but they are kind and that's why they're accepting it. Whereas with my husband, Danny, when he heard about it, he burst out laughing and he said, he actually said, "That's what I love about you. You have a mind of your own." He said, "Yeah, way to go."
Oh, that's what soulmate is all about.
Yeah.
咁真係有啲妒忌添啊，有啲 I was saying I'm getting a little bit jealous because it's such a lovely romantic story and it's in real. Because I myself and Shirley have actually met Danny before, so we can tell how much they love each other. It's like oozing in the air.
So when I had cancer, Danny really, really cared for me a lot, and for me, it would have been very, very, very difficult to leave him behind. But one of the things that I understood when I was in the other realm was that we were so connected that if I did choose to die, he would also follow shortly after. So the interesting thing is, a lot of people have said, is Danny the reason you came back? On the one hand, he would have been the reason I came back. I mean, he is the biggest love of my life. But at the same time, I knew that if I did die, he would come shortly after. So I felt that even that was fine. That would have been perfect as well.
That's the exact question that I asked, because when I read your experience, that's the question that popped up in my mind. I was thinking, oh, so that must be the major reason why you come back, to reunite with your soulmate that loves you so much and whom you love so much. But then it happily astounds me when I know that actually that even if you don't come back, and even if Danny dies afterwards, it's still perfect.
We would have still been together. Yeah.
So we can say, actually, Danny is a determining factor, and at the same time, also not a determining factor.
Yes.
It works both ways because it's still perfect.
It's still perfect. I mean, what I definitely knew in that realm was that we were meant to be together, that we have a purpose together. And so I felt that when I realized that I still had some things to come back for, I realized that Danny and I together had not completed what we had made a pact to do, that we had both agreed to complete some things and we had not yet completed it. So this is why if I didn't come back, he couldn't complete it either. So so either we both go or we both stay.
So it's like a contract of some kind on a soul level.
Yeah. And you asked about the third man in my life was my brother. My brother and I were always very close when we were growing up as kids, always very close. When I was in the coma, even before my mom or my husband Danny phoned my brother, he already sensed that something was wrong, and he started to get on a flight to come to Hong Kong.
Before he received any
contact that,
Ah.
that these were my last hours. And when I was in the other realm, I could see him. I was aware that he was reaching me, and I felt very strongly that I must not die before he gets here. I mean, even if I chose to die, I knew it would upset him very much if he didn't see me before I died. So I knew that I had to at least wait until he reached Hong Kong.
He's your elder brother, right?
He's my elder brother. And I had also a strong sense that I have had other lifetimes with him before.
So you talked about your father, social upbringing towards you.
Yeah.
You grew up in a British school.
Yeah.
And then after you're being a runaway bride, you mingled with Westerners instead of Indians. So, but in that sense, you were still a misfit, right?
Yes, I've spent my entire life being a misfit.
So I remember last time when I was having a chat with Anita, I was saying because I'm a Chinese, but my father took us to the Royal Hong Kong Golf Club and Royal Hong Kong Jockey Club, especially Royal Hong Kong Golf Club, where it was mainly, the members were mainly British. And I was talking to Anita and was saying even the people, the staff working there,
Yes.
even though they were Chinese, they looked down upon us Chinese. And the way they served British was remarkably different from the way they serve we Chinese. And I'm not quite sure if, Anita, you have similar experience before in this respect.
Yes, I've always experienced that. I've experienced racial discrimination from all sides, from the British, from the Chinese, from all sides.
Yeah.
Yes, even we were also a member of a British club on Old Peak Road. And I once remember, I mean, and we were the members, I was the member, and I took a Western girlfriend there for lunch. And at the end of lunch, when I called for the bill, but when the waiter came with the bill, he handed it to her, assuming that she was the member, just because she's Western and I'm Indian. There's just this assumption that she's probably the member.
So what did this kind of discrimination, which happened to be a main theme in your life, what contribution does this give towards your cancer and your life, your overall general well-being?
It contributes to lack of self-esteem and making me feel like I'm not good enough. There were many things, like in terms of discrimination. We have been turned away from apartments because even though the landlord, for example, when we try to rent apartments, the landlord has never met us, but the real estate agent will say that, we have received instructions from the landlord that for this apartment they don't want any Indians or any dogs, and that was a fairly that was fairly common, especially in the late 90s and somewhere around 1996 to about 2000, until people started fighting for changing the law.
You're kidding me, because if you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have imagined that discrimination against Indians was so serious even in the late 90s.
Oh, it was very serious. This was particularly in the 90s, and
because it sounds like it's in the 19th century. You're saying it's in the 19th century that I might be able to understand a little bit more. But it's already, Lord, we're already talking about 1990s.
Yes, the landlords mostly wanted the Westerners. They wanted the expats. And we would tell the real estate agent, can you explain to them, what are they worried about? And they said, they don't want you to, cook up Indian food and this and that. And we would say to them, look, we may be Indian by skin, but we are not typical Indian. But even then, it's discriminating, even if we are typical Indian, we have our rights. But
now, Anita, can I say I smell a little bit of discrimination in yourself towards even traditional Indians? Is that the case at all?
Sometimes we would have to justify ourselves and say, look, we're not typical. But then But then we don't want to discriminate against Indians either.
Okay, I got a very, very sharp question for you.
Sure. Ask me anything.
So have you ever been in your life at any stage that you feel you wish you were in India?
Oh, yeah, when growing up, all the time.
So,
The time.
Especially given that you grew up in a British school, would you imagine that, oh Lord, if my skin is white,
Yeah.
if I'm a Brit,
it
would be great.
Yeah, I felt my life would be easier. Because the thing is, it's not even, that I'm discriminating against Indians. It's just that I'm not typical Indian, so I don't even fit in with them. If I fit in with them, if I was typical, if my parents brought me up in India, then I'd be fine. But I would have been fine. But it was just this whole mix of, I can't even fit in when I go to India. I can't fit in a British school. I can't fit in amongst Chinese people. I just didn't fit in anywhere.
Neither nor. It's like a triple-edged sword then.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I understand now. So after you've now recovered miraculously from this whole experience, so what is your present view towards spirituality and religions in general?
My views have changed quite a lot. I'm not so rigid about religion or spirituality. First of all, I believe that religion is made by people. It's religion. I believe spirituality and religion are two different things. I believe we are all spiritual, whether we realize it or not. It doesn't matter whether you are a scientist, skeptical, anybody, atheist, whatever you are, we are all spiritual. And I feel that whether we realize it or not, we are spiritual. I used to believe that I had to work hard at being spiritual. Now I realize that you don't have to work at being spiritual. You just have to be yourself. Just be true to who you are, be true to who you came here to be, and you are a spiritual person. I'm not so religious, and I don't fear religion anymore because I now completely can see how religion has been created by humans for humans. It's got nothing to do with passing over. Religion is just people's interpretation of spirituality.
So how do you see souls in general? What is it all about?
Let me see. It is, first of all, that's a deep conversation because I would need to understand where the question is coming from. Like some people believe that a soul and a spirit are two different things, and they believe that consciousness is yet another thing. I don't see all the different separations. So I want to be quite clear because these are words that can be misinterpreted. And many people put a different, we might think we mean the same thing because we're using the same word, but we could be meaning something completely different. So I see the soul, if I'm using the word soul, I think it is that person's individual connection with consciousness. So at our consciousness level, we are all connected. We're all one. But I call your connection, so you have a physical body, but you are connected to source. You're connected to consciousness. Your physical body's connection to that source, I call that your soul. That is what you touch, or that is what expresses itself as you. That is what will express itself as Shirley, as Peter. And so you have to get in touch with your soul. It's almost like that is the vehicle or the transition stage for you to touch the greater consciousness.
So that brings to another question. That's the question with regard to karma. Because in your experience, it looks like, to me, as an observer, it's like you have certain karma that accumulates in your cancer, your suffering. But then it's like your karma was being wiped away instantaneously. Or is that how you see it, or how you see karma? Does that fit into the picture at all, the concept of karma?
My beliefs of karma has changed. I used to believe in karma in the traditional way that we build up bad karma or good karma by doing good deeds or bad deeds. And so I felt that the cancer was like a punishment for bad deeds I had done. But I no longer believe in karma in that way at all. I don't think that it is so rigid, because there is no judgment outside of your own self as to what constitutes bad and good. I believe that karma is just a form of balance. In terms of judgment of what's bad and good, I don't think it's karma. I don't think it's religion that controls our behavior. I think that it's much more important to develop compassion. So, in other words, I tell people, don't worry about karma, don't worry about negative, positive, or sinning, or whether we'll go to heaven or hell, or any of these things. The thing that I encourage people to do is to build up empathy and compassion, so that your actions, rather than judging them, when you judge, it's from the mind, rather than judging them from the mind, will this action give me good karma or bad karma? Will this take me to heaven or hell? Forget about all that. Learn to love yourself. When you love yourself, you love other people. It's easy to develop empathy for other people and make your actions come from there. When you have empathy, you do good. You will not hurt others. And it's a much better way than doing it from fearing your karma or fearing the afterlife.
So we are very, very glad to have Anita with us today. And I'm still digesting the tremendous amount of information that you've been sharing. So I hope you enjoy the show.
I did. Thank you so much for inviting me. And wow, your translation is amazing.
Thank you very much. I'm blushing now. So thank you very much. So
Thank you,
hopefully
Anita.
we can see you next time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.